There we are. So we're sitting in Rundfunk here somewhere in Berlin. My kid's next to me. Since it's the same place that you can see with cameras, I will probably turn off the Hangout live machine in order to save bandwidth and also power. But we are waiting for Mike Aono, and I can talk to you and Mike can join in if he wants to from the internet. And if he doesn't, at least he can watch the video what we did. Right. So I will now close my window and you can keep yours open. As soon as we want to stop the broadcast, I can join in and click the stop broadcast button. Or I think if the broadcast stops automatically as soon everybody has left the call. I have to keep it open.
Wait, I thought we were
all right, so okay.
Or yeah, how much battery do you have? Not much. In that case, I'll take over. So yeah, these guys responded, Matt and Mike. They'll join later.
You have to join this Slack again in order to get the link.
Oh. Those two guys, they're gonna join later, they said.
Nice. Or I can also, I think, since I'm on the Agile Ventures page, should be able to see it here somewhere, no? Come on.
Stretch a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I simply have to try because if me, the creator of this thing, is not in the Scrum itself, I think at least 2 people need to be there. You know what happened when my laptop crashed yesterday?
We were hanging out.
Right, so it was still open. Yeah. So if there are 2 other people in the it's still broadcasting, it's going fine. So I guess I can turn off this thing as soon as another person joins in. Yeah.
Do you have enough battery?
Or is there a
place to plug in?
Yeah, I'll just turn off and I will mute my microphone and we'll just keep it open. At some point, my laptop always has some problems. So when I have a lot of things running in the background, I can see it here that, for example, here my memory is almost full. Okay. Like it's 7 gig out of 8. So that's the reason why I try to
free up some space.
Free up. Exactly.
How old is your laptop?
Not old at all. It's very new.
Okay.
I think there's some kind of software problem here. Like it should not allocate so much memory. So now it's just stopped Firefox.
Are you running Ubuntu?
No, it's Linux. Actually, Linux.
Oh, okay.
It's going absolutely fine. It's on my old PC. Yeah. It has a crack in the still running, so I can plug in another monitor, another display, and I see it. It's going fine. Yeah, it's going slowly down. Currently, Firefox is still running. Why? Oh, it's here. Yeah. For some reason, Firefox is allocating more than 1 gigabyte of memory.
Oh, that's eating memory like crazy. I have to keep on standing every now and then just because I think I pinched a nerve in my legs from sitting too much or whatever, or something happened between there. So that I get sore if I'm sitting either on the wrong surface or something too long.
Oh yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you should have a desk where you can stand in front of the
At
computer.
home, yeah, I have a little cabinet where I put my laptop on there, but it comes and goes because like since I was just came back to the States, it definitely happened again on the plane. I sat too long, and so now it's happened a little more frequently than before.
And where does it happen? On your
Now like
your hip?
hamstrings,
Oh, you-
my hamstrings, like upper hamstrings.
so somewhere here
Yeah, it's like butt area.
in the butt area.
It's a pain in the butt, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's just like the muscle was pressing against the nerve for too long. That's why.
I see.
Yeah. So don't mind me if I'm walking around. I'm not bored. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I see now what Mink is telling us. Great. And I will continue working on my other duties.
Okay.
So where I
So it's not recording right now, right?
it is.
Oh,
It is recording right now.
with audio and everything.
Yeah. Shall I stop the broadcast and stopping the recording? I mean, it's okay. It's, when you go down and work on it, it's you can screen share and then show your work for Mike later on and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm doing it sometimes. I'm streaming myself while working.
Hmm.
Like there's an app called Twitch where people usually do let's plays,
I heard of it.
but there are even people who just work and stream what they're doing at the time. That's something I'm doing sometimes.
Okay.
There are people who are interested into that.
I was just thinking, like, the last 10 minutes or so, we didn't really talk about anything about the project, so maybe we could just
That's
get rid
okay.
of that and then start once people join.
Yeah, you can if you want, I can later on cut the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Normally I don't do so much effort because I just let it recording and
Yeah.
it's all right. People can fast forward if they want to. Yeah.
Hello. Robert and Robert. No, Robert and Mike. Mike and Robert. 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 Robert and Mike. Hello, Mike and Robert. Robert and Mike.
That's why.
But Matt can still hear us, can he?
Now he can.
No, you can hear us?
Hear us, Matt?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, awesome. But Matt can still hear us, can he?
Yes.
Now he can. You can hear us? Hear us, Matt?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Well, it's hard to hear.
Yeah. But Matt can still hear us, can he? Yes. Yep.
There's a delay.
It's the same for me. And the microphone. Hello. It's much faster when I talk. Right? viewport. So I guess we're going to use my microphone and my camera, and Matt, you can, but Mike, you can share your screen when you work, right?
Yeah.
So just leave that open. You're going to work on it, and you can also pair with. You can like talk, and my mic will record it. Matt, you can hear us, right?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
I see it smiling, but I cannot hear you. Is it because of me?
I'm not sure. I'm not
I
muted.
can hear you. I can hear now.
Yeah, I can hear you guys fine.
Yeah, great. So I was explaining Mike how to see all processes on his machine, because he was running a background processes and he didn't know. And yeah, now we're running every commands as they should. Yeah, and I was just telling you how to. I was telling you how to see the changes of this hook that we introduced. So if you're currently on this latest commit, can you open yet another? You can leave that in the background. Can you open yet another terminal and see which commit we are currently on, and if the working directory is clean? Yeah, dump. I don't know where that comes from, but you can remove it. Git clean -f. Can you actually see what he's doing, Matt?
Yep, I can see. It's a bit interesting because I can see the terminal is like transparent, and then I can see your faces in the background of the like transparent terminal window. It's like syncing up the two of your cameras, and or like I don't know, but it's cool. Nice effect with the camera. And you can see I can see the writing perfectly fine.
Full transparency.
Yeah, you can see it here.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Where does that do?
Yeah.
Ah, and that's why. So he's having the Hangout in the background, and he's having the terminal in front of that. That's why you see this.
Okay.
If I get turned down the transparency.
That's fine, I would say. As long as you can see everything, it's fine. Okay. So if you should be able to go into your browser and see the actual application now. Yeah. Localhost 4200. There you go. So you can, for example, now log in. So first of all, check how many users you have. Just go down a little bit. 5. If what happens if you log in now, you have quite a lot of broadcasts in there. Yeah. It's also cool. You just log in. It really doesn't matter how you log in. So if you have logged in before that database, you will still have 5 user accounts. Yeah, so you logged in before, but you can on your terminal. You can go to your. I'm always using the Rails console. So open yet another terminal and say Rails console. I'm using bin/Rails console in order to always check out the Rails version which was checked in in the backend. And now you have to change into the backend, by the way. bin/Rails and then C. If you search for your user, you can say, for example, capital user dot find by email, and then the email that you provide with your Gmail account, and this will give you your current user. There you go. So this is your user. If you type in you still have it. So you can see that since we have the touch, the updated ad is our current, like, it's 16th. No, it's not today.
This is the last time I worked on it a couple days ago.
So what happens when you okay, go back to your browser and do just something like tangle out.
Let me
It
support
really
it.
doesn't matter.
So this
Now,
should
yeah, but this is the trick creating more impressions. This will not change the updated ad field on your user account because
Robert, I thought last night in the meeting we were talking about how if you do if you do change your impressions, that it actually does change the updated ad.
yeah, it's changing the updated ad on the impression, but not on your user account. So you missed that. I was discussing with Mike which solutions we should prefer, and I said let's update the last login attribute on the user account itself.
Okay.
Right. Oh, hi, Mike. Mike Aono is here. Nice.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
So we are now following solution number 1. That is, for every request, save the current date in the user profile itself.
Cool.
So, and I'm expecting that if Mike Zhang is doing anything in the browser, we should see a change of this updated attribute field. And it's not currently the case. As you can see, here you see that updated ad is 16th of July. It hasn't changed. You can, since this console doesn't reload, you have to reload manually. No, there's a method on the user model which is called u, which is your current user .reload that will reload any changes. But still, we cannot see a change to the updated ad. So now I would go into the actual code and see and put in a binding pry in the where do you have it? I think it's the application controllers application, and there you go. So it's not there. Did you pull?
yeah, you saw it.
We should see something. Git pull. It doesn't know where to pull from. So you have to say, so there's no upstream branch. Upstream means you want to connect your local branch with a branch online, and you can do that with this parameter here, --, set upstream, or short form, just -u. So you could, for example, say git pull and then origin, if you have a remote origin, which I assume, and then -u, and then the name of the branch where you want to pull from. And now, since you specify -u, you're connecting those two now, if you hit enter.
Hello, what does -u do?
-u is the same. It's a short form for set upstream.
Oh, set upstream.
Yeah, I think we might have lost them. But yeah, it sets that way in the future. You don't have to continue running this whole command. You can just say git push or git pull, and it will know. It'll have tracking for what branch what branch you want to be pushing to.
Okay, so this command is similar to git set add upstream or something. Is he adding the upstream?
Yeah, it's this, like if you see above the git branch, hyphen set hyphen upstream -2. It's exactly the same as that. It's just short form,
Okay.
You can use it. I've never used it with branch, but that's just because, like in this case, he could say git branch set upstream blah blah blah, and then say git pull, and it would pull from that branch. But since it's easier if you're going to push or pull already, then you can just say, I guess it doesn't matter where you put this -u. Normally, I put it after the git push or git pull, but either way, it works. And yeah, they both dropped off. Maybe they got tired of hearing me talk.
Yeah. I've been listening to German music.
Yeah.
Yeah, in support of the project, the broadcasting project. Yeah.
Did they? Zhang is back. Can you hear us, Mike? Zhang? No? And Robert's back.
Okay, we're back.
Oh.
So, but could you still see the screen of Mike?
Yeah, we could see the last thing we saw was that you were using the short form to set upstream and pulling from the branch.
Can you yeah, give branch -A will give you all branches. It's all right. It's still running. So apparently only my laptop lost connection. So here are all the branches on the current remote, and there should be 390 somewhere here.
When you get a chance, could you just share your screen again? Your screen again, John?
It's not sharing. It's not sharing. Oh yeah. You're apparently not sharing the screen again. So you can just click on that one. Yeah, share screen. So here you see that there is in fact, if you scroll up a little bit, where was it? Yeah, there you go. So there's 390 monthly email list. And you're on Mike's 4. So apparently, yeah. Okay, that could be the thing. So here you see the remotes. Here. Yeah, and I thought it's on Origin, but it's in fact on your repository. So just replace Origin with Mike's 4. Just as you see it here, you can also we just repeat the last command and then replace Origin with Mike's 4. No, that's fine. I think the name of the branch is okay. Yeah, just that one. Mike's Fork, and you type it in. You named it Z. Mike's Fork. Yeah, you have to scroll up a little bit. Mike's Fork is Z. Okay. There you go. Yeah, fine. And now you can say git pull, and it will pull from Mike's Fork and 390. Yeah, it's trying to merge it. It's fine. Now, if you say, yeah, this is fine because you can see that the application controller was changed. So without even knowing, I was apparently pushing to your repository. Yesterday.
That'd be a problem.
Yeah.
We should change it.
No, it's fine. Git is decentralized. It's awesome. You can have repositories all over the place, and so it's still okay.
So I can't get rid of my fork repository, or else that'll
You can get rid of it, but you don't need to.
Okay.
Why? Just keep it now. Since you have read access to the Origin repository, you can also now create branches on the Origin repository. That's up to you.
Okay. I just like to keep everything neat. That's why time to time I clean out any repositories I don't go find.
Yeah, well, I think I don't clean any repository of mine, not even forks. But now you have here the set last login, and since the backend has changed, now if you do anything on the front end side on the browser, that should run this method here and do current user touch. If current user means if you are authenticated. Current user is nil. If you're not authenticated, then it will do nothing. But if there's a current user, you can update it. Alright, so let's try it out. Do something on the browser, just anything that will trigger a backend request. Really, refresh, for example, will trigger a backend request. And yeah, if you do user reload, you should see the yes. Nice. Did you see that, Matt and Micah Ono?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was updated. Yeah.
That's exactly what we want. And I don't know if you got that, but before I was we were discussing maybe it's better not to take updated add in order to track the last login, but add a separate attribute, which we would call last login, and then update that date and only that date, only that column, nothing else. So we know we can distinguish between when did the user update his profile last time. For example, he changed his gender, or he. Do we have a loop? Like, no, I don't. What is lookup in English? Like if you have these sounds like
the background noise?
I will look it up.
I had a question. So this, you said this if current user. So you're checking if a person is actually a user of the, so they have a token. Then you're saying current user dot touch, and when you say this dot touch, that's what's touching the database. Like it's.
Touch is Rails specific method which just updates updated add attribute on any record you want.
Okay, cool.
So we can see it, but since the purpose of updated add is to know when was the last time a record was changed, that could be any record, but we would like to keep that information so we don't mix it up with this last login information. We have two separate pieces of information now. And therefore, and therefore I was suggesting to Mike that he could add a migration, add another column on the user model, and name that column last login. And then instead of touching the user, which will update the updated add attribute, update that last login column specifically. Right?
Yeah, with time.now or something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Ono, have you run a migration before?
Yeah, I did run the migration to create the database on my local.
Why do we need this in the first place?
If you're not authenticated, then nil will be contributor will be nil. And what does happen if you say nil.touch? Okay. Nil pointer exception.
Okay. But then this is okay, I have to review that later. So I'll create a migration in users for, what do we want to call it again?
Speak a little bit louder. I think they can hear me because I have a loud voice, but I don't think they can hear you.
Okay.
Matt, can you understand what Mike is telling us?
A little bit, but it's more difficult for sure.
Yeah, I'll speak a little louder. That was
thank you.
Me and Rob earlier. So now I'm going to create a migration to add last login. Is that the column we're going to call it?
Yeah, whatever you like. I think last login is pretty self-explaining.
I have a question. Do you need to is this the what he's naming the migration? Is it important, like because I've seen before, like add column last login to user before, but
I think it's just a convention that you call it add or remove name of column from name of model or something like that, but it doesn't really matter. It's just
okay. I've sort of just used migrations in Django, and what we do there is we add a column name in a model. Then if we make the migrations and migrate, the migration file is automatically created. Do we have to do it manually here?
Yeah, if you run Rails G migration, the migration file is also automatically created, and it will prefix this migration file with a number that corresponds to the current date. Do you now? Then we'll create a file and watch it.
Would that be of type date or date time?
Mike is doing something else. He's not only adding the file name, he's also putting another parameter, and that is into Rails to automatically add this attribute. But we'll see what's going on. Like this last login colon date. I just removed last login date for now. It's too confusing, I guess. So this is the file name, and watch it. What? Ah, you're not in the backend folder. Yeah, no.
The other thing that I think I was talking to Ono about is that the other day, or maybe, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, maybe I was talking to someone else, but the thing about like adding this, generating a migration is that it's not actually going to touch the schema. So you can go there, like, so they removed the last login with the date, and then, but if you make a mistake, for example, after you generate it, you can still easily change it in the migration file before you actually run your migrations.
Yeah, you can always change migration files, but beware that there's a reason why it automatically adds the date to the name of the migration. When Rails runs migrations, it will run those alphabetically. Since you have the date as a prefix, it will run migrations chronologically, and that's actually important. Let's say you did a mistake and you want to change the migration, I would advise to say Rails migration rollback, which will roll back the latest migration and will undo the change, then change the migration file and then run the migration again. Rails will get confused if you migrate it, and Rails knows which migration was run the last time. Like if it ran successfully all migrations, and you want to change the migration and you run Rails migrate again, it will do nothing because it thinks it has run the latest migration again.
Yeah. What I was saying is that, like, before you actually run the migrations, like with Rails DB migrate, it's easier to make changes. Like he's doing at Zheng is doing at the moment. If you run the migrations, then you can always roll it back, but it's just a little bit more difficult than if you catch your mistake before you actually run the migration.
Yeah,
that's
of course. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
On line 3, Mike, you're missing a D.
It's a typo. You have add D as advertisement, but you want to add with double D. So he's adding. Add column is a method. It's expecting a couple of parameters. The first parameter is the name of the model, which is users. So that's the name of the table in the database. Second parameter is name of the column name, which you want to change or add in this case, which is called last login. And now he's looking for the data type. And there are a couple of, there are a confusing number of date types for date. There's date, datetime. I think there's also timestamp. I have no idea which one to choose. I think it's timestamp. What's the difference between datetime and timestamp? Can you?
I think it would be date time. I think
date time gives the exact date, yeah, the date and time. But timestamp gives like since the year, it counts the seconds since the year 000.
I mean, what is updated at? What is the time, the date type of updated at? Do you know? I think you have to Google it because the schema is, we don't even use the schema, but maybe we can find it here. Yeah, so it's daytime. Yeah, I would choose daytime.
And Robert, I think I dropped off when you are trying to explain what Mike is doing there.
When you dropped off when I was trying to explain what
the add column line 3 meant. I think you're saying something about what line 3 does when the code runs.
Yeah, I can give you a link. It's much better if I give you the link than trying to explain it with words.
Okay.
So I can put it into the Hangout or put it into the Slack. Where's my Slack? My Slack is gone. Okay.
I have it in Hangout.
Here. So this is add column, and you can see in the between the parentheses you have table name, column name, type. These are the 3 attributes that are mandatory. You have to give them, and there's options which you can where you can add more stuff. So options is something like a maximal column length. So nothing really important. All you have to do is to say table name, column name, date type, and that's what we just did. Now, if you run the migration, did you run it already?
I did, yeah.
So he has now another attribute on the user, and you can verify it if you, for example, go into the console and do user reload, and then you should see an attribute called last login, which should be nil. No, maybe that doesn't work like that. How do you? What happens if you say?
Be able to see in the schema.
That should run the rerun the, and now u.reload.
Or maybe
Maybe you may exit and then maybe changes to the database are not reloaded.
Maybe not.
And reflected in the console.
Yeah.
Also, the changes will be reflected in the schema as well.
I would always advise you to, if you run commands like Rails, don't use the global command Rails, but use the bin/Rails command. Yeah.
What does that do again?
Yeah, it's it's a file. So you have in the repository there's a file inside the folder bin.
No, right, but it makes you use the correct version.
You can going on, but yes, one change or one difference is that it's running Rails from GAN file. Yeah, there's last login. It's nil.
Yeah.
So now if you say update columns and say last login and then time now in the controller hook, you should see a change in login. Yeah. Set last login instead of current user touch, you just say update column or update columns, as you saw it half an hour ago or something.
Changed it.
Yeah, instead of touch, you say update column.
So this update column is another Ruby method that is going to update all the columns in the database? Or
it's not updated add. So when you say save will always updated add, but update column doesn't.
Okay. So update column just updates the information that's, oh, there we go. I have a nice API doc. Update column.
Yeah, so it's equivalent to update columns. So you can just say update columns or update column, whatever you like. And then you say, for example, in our case, last login colon, time current or time now. What's different? The difference between current and time?
Okay. So you do need to pass in the column you wanted to update as a parameter.
Yeah, exactly. And it will only update the columns.
Okay, cool.
Else.
All right. I get it.
The column, right?
It doesn't matter because update column is just an it's calling update columns internally.
Yeah.
So it's equivalent here. So
Alias.
not quite. It's update column has accepting 2 attributes, name of the attribute and the value, but it's just doing this here, right? So no matter, you can also just call update columns immediately, whatever you like.
Okay, we want to specify
Last login. And then I don't know what's time current, time now, time current, time now, Rails. Ah, okay. You should see time current because it's having time zone.new. The time with the time zone. So if we're sitting in Berlin, it will have
It's additional.
Yeah.
Accuracy.
Yeah, fine. And if you do, yeah, if you say that and do something in your browser, then you will have last login updated without having updated app updated. Just do anything, reload the page, whatever. This will trigger a backend request, and immediately you will have your last login populated.
Okay. So reload, user reload. There we go.
There we go. And you can see that this is 1350.
Yeah.
We have.
Oh wait.
No, this is UTC apparently. So your server is on UTC, which is okay. But where's updated at?
Updated at.
So this one is earlier, right? And this wasn't updated, and this is what we want.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You can, I would say, let's save it. And could you revert the in the user model the other solution? Like we don't want that anymore. So this is fine, cool. And if you go to the user model,
Users.
Models. Exactly, you can, I would say, you can remove that from method. And then commit. Right.
And before I do that, so the reason it's going to UTC 2 hours before, is that something
time
that
zone.
change?
We're in Central European summertime. My time is Central European summertime. And since your...
Where is that set? Is it set somewhere in my system?
It's somewhere in your system.
Probably in the settings or the map. Okay, so outside of Rails, basically.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, we'll save that. So,
I would say add everything except the dump and structure SQL. Yeah, we want that, we want that, we want that, we don't want that, and we want that. Yeah, and then we can commit. What's the name of this Git GUI? It's
this is Adam.
This is Adam.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I was gonna comment about that earlier. I'm used to this.
it's really nifty. Yeah.
I've never used this before on Adam, but I've seen that it's possible. I've opened it accidentally.
Is that where commit message?
Yeah, a separate last login column, something like that. You can, yeah, and I would always use simple present. So instead of added, just use add.
Commit.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and now you can quickly go to, yeah. So this is working, and I would probably now change the test accordingly. So I prepared some tests that you can fix. If you go into spec/models/users, then you see that so since last action here, this is still the old idea of mine, creating an impression with an updated at 2 months ago. You can remove that and just say, yeah, just remove the entire line and say user update column, just as you would do in the controller hook. So this is doing the setup for your test. So many new broadcasts since last login means, okay, here we have the broadcasts. Those broadcasts are added now. And you can just mimic this behavior that you last logged in 2 months ago by saying your current user here has a last login attribute with a time 2 months ago, for example.
Sorry, I was confused. Could you type thing?
No. So this is an RSpec test, and we have this it thing here are all the test cases.
Yeah.
The context is explaining certain conditions that are present.
Right.
And
yeah, I know the structure of RSpec. It's just for this test. I was confused with the last one.
So what does mean many new broadcasts and last action? What do we need in the database? What state?
If there's a many new broadcasts.
So first of all, we need many new broadcasts.
Yeah.
Many could be, for example, 20, as you see online, 18. And what else do we need? Many new broadcasts since last login, or in this case, last action.
There's more broadcasts. We need to know what the last action is.
Yeah, exactly, and we have to set it.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to set the last login to some date, which is in the past, and it has been a while. That's what we do right now.
Mm-hmm.
So before, the line you just deleted was the old idea, adding an impression which is old. And since this is the only one, this would be the last action. But now we don't want to call it last action. I would actually name it properly, call it last login, and then set this last login by saying you already have the user, this user up here. You know the concept of lats?
So what's that?
Yeah, do you know the syntax here?
Yeah. You're
Okay.
just setting a variable.
Exactly.
Oh, so we're changing the test entirely, right?
Many new browsers is fine. I just wanted to rename last action to last login.
Okay.
And now you say user dot update columns last login, and then 2 months ago or something like that.
Okay. Last.
Yeah, say update columns. Or you can also do like this. Yeah. No.
Wait,
If you say
Updated at.
I think it doesn't matter in this case. You could also set last login and then save, but update columns will not update the updated attribute again.
Right. Updated column. Right?
Update. It's simply present.
Columns.
Just as you would do in the controller.
Right. Authority. Here we go.
But instead of time current, you say 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 10 years ago, 1 century ago, whatever you like.
Right. What's the command for that?
In Rails, you have 2.months ago. Without the time.
2.months ago.
Yeah.
So
this is something really cool about Ruby that you can do.
Yeah, that's real. Actually, you cannot do it in Ruby. Rails is loading active support, and active support patches certain built-in types like integer, and you can do this kind of magic, saying 2.month and then ago, which will give you a date.
right.
Yeah. Oh.
Now you basically change the logic of the test, and you have you have the test set up right, and I guess the rest is fine. So there is forgot to distribute money for supported broadcast. It just means you have like 3 impressions for this user, and amount is there.
Yep.
Oh, and there's still something missing. I forgot to add the response. You should add response positive here, because otherwise it could also be neutral.
This one?
Yeah. So add response positive here. That's my fault. Like you see here.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we have 3 different cases. Here are the many new broadcasts. Here the person forgot to allocate money or assign money, distribute money. Here's an unbalanced distribution, which means you have 1 supported broadcast and you enter a budget on this 1 single broadcast, which is, I don't know, maybe this is on purpose, but maybe it's not. We don't know, but you could notify the user. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Okay. Yeah, now you can try to fix the tests.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, you can see that here the subject is user.reasons for notification, not reasons for notifications. And this method, if you run this test now, it will give you there's no or undefined method, something like that. So now commit this stuff here because you fixed the test setup. Yeah. Fix test setup.
Good.
Yeah. And if you run the tests now, bin /rspec inside the backend, in the backend folder bin /rspec, and you can optionally add a file like spec models user. Spec /model/user. Models. The folder is called models user.
User spec.
Yeah.
Now we can put it in the line.
Yeah, you can if you want. Good. I would run all of them because. And now you should see something like undefined method, and now it's your final hour where you can do the actual coding, like the implementation, because since there's no method, you can add this method and fix one spec after another, and also work with a little bit with Mike Ono, because with Matt, they want to learn more about Ruby. Yeah, undefined method, reasons for notification. That's exactly what we want. So this is the error message we were expecting. Yeah, no, let's go and fix it. So my idea was that I can work on other projects in the meantime, but always be available and answer questions. So I will just keep the Hangout open and also using my mic and my video. So while Mike is typing, he can think aloud, right? And also, Mike, you're currently muted, but if you have any questions, just unmute your microphone and we'll listen to that. Okay?
Okay. That's fine.
Mike Jung, what is going through your mind?
Really not used to
Test-driven development.
A little bit bad and just being on camera and trying to think aloud at the same time. I could do one or other.
Yeah.
If I'm talking, then I won't be thinking.
Yeah, now you can feel how I feel when I'm doing stuff while doing this the regular meeting.
You're used to it, I think. You're
really
more of a out, or what's you like to talk about while you're coding.
Yeah, it's hard for me as well, honestly. Okay. I'm not good at doing many things at a time.
Multitasking.
Yeah, multitasking, exactly.
Yeah, but you know your project better than me, so I'm just trying to think what we need to do next while explaining.
Matt wants to say something.
I mean, I can always talk. I mean, I don't know that I feel like I know what the next step is, although the step after that maybe I'm a little unclear on. But normally, like with what I've seen with BDD or TDD is like doing the least possible to get to the next step of the failure.
Exactly.
So in this case, where it's saying that there's an undefined method, reasons for notifications, and then I ask myself, for example, so where should this method, reasons for notifications, go? And then I notice that the test is under spec/models/user spec. So that leads me to believe that the method would go in the user models, in the user model.
The first thing is add a method with a name to user model.
And then you'll get a different error, which will lead you to be able to understand what you need to do next, which at this point I don't understand, but maybe after.
Yeah, exactly. That's test-driven development on its best.
Yeah, red green refactor.
Yeah.
The green part to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. And if you run it now, if you save that file and run the test again, you will get another error.
And I think like the cool thing about the way that Robert's set this up, that he's done for me before as well, is that he's kind of done the hard part in that if, well, I mean, not that Robert doesn't make mistakes, but the idea is that because he has a higher level understanding of what we want to be doing, he probably has thought of like adding, you know, that the test will fail until we get to the point where it just works, you know?
Yeah, that's my whole idea. I wanted to prepare a little bit. That means I had the test set up. And since I forgot a lot of things, that's what we did in the last 45 minutes, fixing the test setup. I hope now that it's going, giving you a strong direction where to go now.
Yeah, one thing I was confused earlier was I think last time on the GitHub poll, you asked me to put in these tests, and I didn't get a chance to do that. But you already did it for this, so that's why I was confused. I was like, wait, when did this actually occur? So I was trying to make sense of what happened.
Yeah, exactly. I just did that before. Now you can see it's expecting, so it can find this method, but it's not returning what it's supposed to return, right?
Ono, do you understand this error message that we're getting on this now?
Yeah. So it's saying you expected for all of these 3 test cases, expected nil. So this the actual return value, expected nil, to include, and then a symbol. The symbol is always different for each of those test cases. So first, expected nil to include recently created broadcasts, but it does not. It does not respond to include. So it's not an array. Like nil is just nil, nothing. It's not an array, and it doesn't contain something. You could, for example, return an empty array. No.
Yeah, I was wondering if Ono understood why it's saying expected nil to include, like.
Can you please show the window again?
The terminal.
The terminal, yeah.
Yeah, but it's recently created broadcast.
That's just a symbol. You can see that it has started with a colon. That's just a symbol, and you see that also in the test specification.
Right.
If you open up the test, then you can see it there. So I put it there. Okay. So it says it is expected to include recently created broadcast. It refers to the subject, which is the return value of either of the reasons for notifications. Method just created. If you have an empty method, it will always return nil, and it's what it's doing right now. It's always returning nil, but it's supposed to be apparently something that contains other objects, and it's supposed, in this case, to at least include recently created broadcasts.
This is a method that you have to implement, right?
Yeah. So my idea for reasons for notification is just it's a method that you can call for every user in order to get all the reasons why you should notify the user, right? So if the user did something that you could improve, and for example, you should check out more broadcasts, then this method should give you the reason there are recent created broadcasts, and then you can send that user a mail. You have 800 users, not all of them should receive a mail. Just those that be re-engaged in a way. So this is like a preparation for finding those users which we want to notify, and in the next step we would probably create an email template for them. But first of all, let's find the reasons why.
Right, and basically we listed out 4 reasons. Recent, new broadcast is one of them. New features, which had a
new
question.
features is a little difficult because the system doesn't know new features.
How do we?
I think that has to be done manually. Yeah.
There's not a way of like in website 1 there we're able to, with I think it's OctoKit, they're able to like ask ask GitHub for like latest commits and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess the latest features would be more difficult, no?
That's actually a good idea. It's a smart way.
Like closed issues, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something like a smart way. We could send them like the changelog or something on GitHub. There's a changelog on GitHub.
Mhm.
We could use that in an email template. That would be a smart way. Well, that's, I would say, more advanced.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. So for
I'll probably get another coffee.
The screen's not sharing anymore. No?
nope. Am I not sharing? Let me.
The waiter's not paying attention.
Is it sharing now?
Yeah, because you're looking at the. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. So. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Also, I should focus probably on your screen, right? Because
Yeah.
the recording will just see random people talking.
Yeah.
But maybe the screen sharing of your computer is the most interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So with this method, I guess, should this go into the broadcast model as a method? Recently created broadcast.
I mean, you can see that we are testing currently the user,
Right.
and the user has this method reasons for notifications. So the method reasons for notification should do some kind of magic and spit out a list of reasons. And in this case, this list should at least have the item of this symbol recently created because, by the way, Mike Ono, a symbol.
He dropped off. I don't know if he had
see.
activity issues or he had to go.
Matt, sorry. The symbol is a special thing in Ruby. You probably have seen it before, a symbol.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah,
always written with a colon. It's like a string.
I guess my question. So I guess the answer to the question that I was asking before is it's saying expected nil to blah 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 because we just have an empty method, so we're returning nothing. So I mean, I don't know. Am I crazy to if we returned just a string saying recently created broadcasts, would we get a different error? I mean, ultimately you would want an array, right?
Yeah, one way to do it is just return that string. I mean, you could easily probably fix those three tests by returning an array, which has all the three symbols as a string. It's returning them always. But that's not what we are trying to test. Like, if you have just a user, okay, you found a potential, like a cheat way of fixing those tests. Since we don't have the empty test case. Let's say we are not having a test case where we have no reasons to notify a user and expecting an empty array. You can just pre-populate. Let's do that. Add one test case to it. Say context by default or something like that. Just copy this whole context thing.
Create a new context?
Yeah, so context goes from, since you can see, it's going from 15 to line number 19. No, line number 21, sorry.
Yeah.
You can just copy the whole, oh no. Yeah, it's going from line 21 now. Okay, just copy the whole thing. Create another test case. I would put it at the very first because I was suggesting to add the default, having no reasons to notify a user, and then remove this last login thing, say maybe last login time current, and just log in right now. Yeah, for example, the default could be instead of he logged into a month ago, he just logged in right now.
Hello, Joseph.
You expect
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Let me find out.
again.
Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Oh no, Joseph is here.
Yeah, let me find a quiet place.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi.
I think it's the first time that you're joining us. Is it?
Yeah, I think is your handle the Josipovic?
Yeah.
Cool. So in the background, Robert, Joseph joined the new members, and I suggested that he join the pair programming because he has a background in JavaScript and is keen to learn a little bit about Ruby on Rails.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just about to learn something, learn test-driven development with Rails.
Thank you.
What we're doing right now. So we are doing unit testing. Do you know what a unit test is?
Yep, testing a set of like function where you don't test the whole thing, you just test.
Exactly. Now we are testing one particular method of a model. Do you know what a model is in Rails?
No. Is it a user model like a DB?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Models refer to things in your system. Yeah. Models refer to things in your system that could be an account, a user, an item, product, whatever, a company, an organization, just something that you talk about. And right now we're testing the user model, and we're testing one particular method of the user model. So a model has behavior and state, and part of the behavior are the methods. In this case, we're testing the so-called reasons for notification method. So our goal is to send mails or some kind of notification to our users in case we see something that they should improve, right? So in our application, people can vote on things, right? So Rundfunk mitbestimmen is an application where you can vote on broadcasts. This is our application. This is the purpose of our application. And let's say that broadcasts have been added to the database, and let's say you as a user, you logged in 2 months ago. In the meantime, 300 new broadcasts has been added to the database, and you should have a look and see if you find some of them interesting, let's say. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so that would be one reason of notifying you, right? So we find something in the database. We know you logged in like 2 months ago, the last time, and there's a lot that has been happening in the meantime, and we would just like to give you a quick hint. Hey, don't you want to re-log in and check it out, right?
Okay.
And that's what Mike was currently doing. He's now on the bathroom, but he's using his computer right next to me.
Okay.
And this is what you see in the screen share. And I'm using my computer in order to use the camera and just record us ourselves.
You know what's really cool, Robert, that we didn't have a think about. There's the thing in Adam, the editor, the editor that he's using, that's called teletype. And if you're using teletype with someone else who also has teletype and has Adam, you can actually give access. So like I could be typing on his computer at the moment,
Yeah. When Mike is back, we'll probably move to another table because, as you can see, there are electric plugs over there, and my PC is at 36%, so it's gonna be finished in half an hour or so. Yeah, but so far, does everything make sense to you right now, Joseph? Do you have any questions so far?
Yeah, so I don't know anything much about Ruby, but it looks like Python, the syntax. It's
Python and Ruby is very similar.
Yeah, so my strongest point will be JavaScript. I've worked with React. I haven't worked with Ember, but anything to do with JavaScript, I can totally work with anything. Yeah.
So maybe to give you a little bit, I will just use the mouse of Mike's computer. So to give you a little bit help with the syntax, the small written words can either be a variable name or a method. In this case, it's a method call.
Okay.
Right? So we have, let's say, certain global methods. This is a test case here. RSpec is a testing framework, and there are certain global methods like describe, context. Before, have you used Mocha?
That's the same. Yeah, Mocha and Chai.
So you're familiar with that?
Yeah.
You're doing some kind of test setup. You know that already,
Okay.
and you know context. It's exactly the same concept. And here, this it thing is similar to this. If you have used, I think, yeah, Mocha is using this syntax. They're using it in order to specify test cases, right? Yeah, and right now here, this is just the highlight. This is the scenario that we were talking about, right? So we have many new broadcasts since last login. This is the test setup. This is the actual test case. And one more thing. This one here is like a magic method that refers to our subject on the test, which is the user. And this is how you call methods, similar to JavaScript. Just think of something like that. In Ruby, you don't have to put in parentheses. Okay. This is optional. So if you don't have any parameters, you can just omit them. So it's this is equivalent to it. So this is a method call. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the return value of this method is our subject. And we expect this subject to include something. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But the syntax is different. So are you assigning the value after the user.reasons for notification returns the value? Are you assigning it to the subject, or how's that?
Yeah, this one here is, let's say this is the subject.
Okay.
And it's actually a shorthand for expect subject.
Oh, okay, okay. So you don't have to include the variable here. That's what I was actually asking.
So this is just a shorthand. You can just say, yeah, just like that. Oh, how can I do that? Ah, okay, like this. So this is just shorthand, and then you say to. And since you don't need parentheses, you have just a space. But this is just equivalent to this one here. Right? This is the equivalent. In Ruby, you can omit parentheses, so you can just have that. It reads a little bit nicer, but it's the same.
Okay.
And this one here is a matcher. It's checking, okay, whatever that is should be something like an array or a list, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it should have this thing here. And here's one major difference between JavaScript and Ruby. In JavaScript, you don't have symbols. In Ruby, symbols are similar to strings. The syntax is that you use a colon. Mm-hmm. So if you have a lower, if you have a word in lower letters with a colon, that's a symbol.
Okay.
It's very similar to a string. So just think of having a list of strings. That's it. And in this case, we're just checking that whatever is the return value of reasons for notification should have item here included. That's it.
Okay.
Correct. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're just refactoring that test that starts on line 15 to you had said something about when you change the name of it, and we're gonna instead of saying 2.months.ago, we're gonna say something like time.now, because then if the person has just logged in, there's no reason for us to send them an email.
Okay.
They're on the move. It's really beautiful. There's trees in the background.
Yeah, I was about to ask where they are.
They're in Germany. They're at a park in Germany. Or is a park or a beer garden? I think it's a beer garden. Wow, look at this. Beautiful beer garden. We have beer gardens here in Brazil, but they don't typically have any like free. There's no garden. It's just beer.
How's my audio quality? Is it my audible enough?
Yeah, your audio is fine. You're joining us from Kenya, right?
Yeah, Nairobi.
We have quite a few agile ventures.
Ich hätte gerne noch eine große Tasse Kaffee.
From Kenya. I don't know if you know Faith.
Yeah, she's actually the one who introduced me. Yeah.
That's not like I don't know, right? That's somebody else.
No, it's Joseph. He's it's the first time he's visiting our project. Yeah, I think you don't know Mike. So this is Mike Zhang.
Hi.
Yeah, I thought there was another Mike Aono.
Yeah, Mike Aono. He's from Kenya. Joseph, are you also located in Kenya?
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you know each other? Mike, do you know Mike Aono? So many people in Kenya.
Yeah, Matthew just told me that Faith, she's from Kenya. Yeah, I know her. She's the one who introduced me to the venture.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we lost him a couple of minutes ago, but.
And Faith is back, Robert.
He's back?
Faith.
Yeah, he's reconnecting.
No, Faith is back. She's back.
Faith?
To Ventures. Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, so I'm sure she'll join us at some point.
Definitely. Yeah, okay, let's go back.
Just a quick question. I see here you have, for the setup, you already have this let user, subject user. But why are you defining it?
That's a good question. Just remove that line. Yeah, just this line. And since we wanted to have this default case, maybe change this description to default case, whatever.
With this context?
Yeah.
To change it to what?
Default.
Default?
Like, or, yeah, by default, something like that. So it's just reads nicely. Just by default. And that's the description of the entire test case. And then you say, okay, user update columns last login time current. So if the user just logged in, really there's no need for a notification. And you can also remove that one that's not relevant here.
Read this. Yeah, we don't need this.
And then you say, is expected to be empty. That's it.
What's the syntax? Be empty.
Be empty. Be underscore empty. So this is testing for an empty array. I just want to show you what I mean. Like if you create, let's say, an array which has, can you scroll down a little bit? Which has these three symbols here: recently created broadcast, no given amount for supported broadcast, and unbalanced distribution. If you go to the user model and just add an array here, with the square brackets, and these three symbols, like, just copy them in. Colon, and next one.
Kaffee?
Yes, danke, yeah. Vielen Dank. Danke. If you would run the test now, if you save that one, every test case should pass except the very first one, which is expecting an empty array. I mean, the reason why we added this test case is not to have the cheat solution. You just created the cheat solution, just adding these three reasons for every user all the time. That doesn't make any sense, right?
Of course.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I mean. Yeah, you can save that. You can also commit that and say we made sure that the cheat solution is not an option. The cheating solution. Just cheating is not an option.
I didn't see the sorry, I didn't see the implementation of the cheating option.
Okay, I'll go back to the screen real quick.
Thank you.
With that. Only stage that file. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. These are not staged. Great.
Okay. Which line did you want to see?
I think he's referencing this file here. So we're just returning an array with all reasons included always, all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. But what was the test that we implemented to make sure that that is not an option?
This one, the default.
It was
this one, line 14.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, that test will fail now, while the other ones might still pass. But I'm just trying to think like, yeah. I mean, maybe Zhang, do you feel like you understand how to return what we would need to return to get all of these tests to pass?
Sorry, I didn't hear I didn't hear part of your sentence. Do I
was wondering because so we can't have an array. We can't have an array with the reasons like I was trying to cheat, because then it'll fail the first test. And I was just wondering if you have an idea of what the next step forward would be to implement it in a way that would return the specific reason. Yeah, I mean, we'd have to check. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we would need to check. We would need to check if there's any recently created broadcasts, and if that. Well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. So we need like the job that's going to run would have to cycle through all of these methods, and if any of them returns true, then it should basically kick off the template that'll do that. Yeah, you fill in the email mailer with that template.
You're thinking one step ahead already. So you're already expecting this method is working, and you can cycle through the reasons for notifications and then kick off the template. I think Matt is just asking how can we make all this pass now?
Okay.
Right. So how can we find all reasons? Right? Is it true, Matt?
Yeah. I was just. I mean, could you run the tests again?
Sure.
So, because the new test that was written is expecting for, it's expecting that the reasons for notification to be empty. I mean, I guess that doesn't mean. I guess that doesn't mean the. It's not expecting the method to be empty, but it's expecting whatever is returned to be empty.
Yeah. Now it's not an empty array. It has all the three simples.
Yeah.
So
we need to populate the array based on figuring out what reason we have to contact them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you could, for example, make that very first test case passing by returning an empty array.
This one.
This one would pass if you just return an empty array.
Okay.
The thing that I'm thinking with this is expected to be empty. It seems to me that like whenever we do have a reason, no, all right, never mind. You're gonna have like a conditional, like if the person has the person's last login is within a certain period of time, then you return an empty array.
Okay.
I would return an empty array by default and just check how many broadcasts have been added since his last login. And at a certain threshold, let's say 10.
Yeah.
Then you would say, okay, he never saw 10 new broadcasts. Okay, let's notify him. Let's add this reason.
Yeah. Yeah. But
No?
you can, so when you say add it by default, you're saying that like in the parameters of the add a default that's set to an empty array?
Yeah, by default, let's start off with an empty array, I would say.
Yeah, okay.
Sure,
Yeah, you can just start off with an empty array. That's, I think, what Matt is suggesting.
Oh,
so here, this is not obviously not an empty array.
Right. So just get rid of this.
Yeah, you just get rid of that one. The content, that is an empty array. If you run the test now,
yeah,
all tests that were previously succeeding should fail,
yeah,
and that one failing test should succeed.
Yeah.
And I would now go to test number. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it looks pretty close. So this is the empty array that we have, and recently created broadcast is expected to be in there. And yeah, I would now see like how to check for the number of all broadcasts that were created since last login.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
That's what I thought. Should that be in the broadcast model, since it's a broadcast?
Kind of. I mean, the created at every record in Rails has a created at attribute. So we have for every broadcast a created at.
We could do like the record.
We can compare that, right?
Yeah. If within the time frame, say 1 month, or whatever we're going to do. Anything that's created after that, we have a way to capture all those broadcasts.
Yes, exactly. That's the solution.
Yeah.
So, can you, in your own words, explain the procedure?
Sure. So just to clarify, for what do we want to do for the time frame? Should this email run first day of each month, and then we take?
Actually, I would say it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think that you would be, because Robert, what you're saying is that we can check like broadcasts created at and compare that to the user.last login. So we can start with the user last login and then check how many broadcasts have been created since the user.last login.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Give me all the broadcasts that were created after my user has been logged in last time.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
And then we have to invent some kind of threshold, which is up to you, or up to Matt, or up to Joseph. What is a reasonable default? Maybe 10. I don't know.
For me, it would help me. If you, instead of maybe explaining it with words, if we could maybe like play around in Pry and see like, okay, I don't know, like because ultimately like whatever we put in the method, we could just copy it from Pry, and then we can like see like, okay, what's the broadcast like user.last login. Well, I don't know if that would work, because the only user that we have access to in Pry is Zhang, right?
Is what?
So the method reasons for notification is on the user model. So the reference itself is you yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can also use binding Pry also in tests. Right. If you're in your user model, you can drop in binding Pry right there.
Where?
Not at the cursor position, but if you type in arrow left or arrow right, yeah, either there or after the array, you can just type in binding.pry, and this will open up binding Pry. So if you run your tests now, you will see.
Oh yeah, that's right. So now so if you do it, if you start the Pry session from the terminal, then the only user that you have access to is your own user, which would be difficult to to be looking at user.last login, because the last login for us would be right like 2 minutes ago or whatever. Whereas if you put the binding.pry in the method and run your tests, then we'll have access to all of the like the user that we created in the test framework in the let block.
So I wasn't paying attention because I'm asking myself why my computer is not recharging. But yeah, there's your binding pry, by the way.
Yeah. So like if you say user.all, what do you get?
User.all. This will give you all current users.
So
and self will give you the user himself. Do you want to need all users? I will leave you alone for a minute. I will ask him.
I was saying user.all because I was wondering if there would be more users because we created more users in the test with the let, but it doesn't. It seems like there's just one.
The test is expecting just one user.
Yeah. Okay. But self would be just one user as well. Right?
About the electricity here. Yeah.
Okay. We'll carry on. Yeah. So there's only one user.
And if you say self, there's only one user as well, right?
Self?
Yeah, it would just be you, right?
Oh, I didn't even know about that command. Okay, yeah.
That's what. Well, I guess it is the same user. That's what Robert was saying, that if you
second charger down there.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt. I'm gonna.
That's all right.
We're up, man.
So I guess he was saying that if you say self, then it will give you yourself. But in this case, I guess yourself, because we're in the test, is this user John Doe?
It's a little hard to hear. What did you want me to run again?
No, just that self. Like I think in this case user.all and self give you the same output because there's only one user and that's self.
Yeah.
So I guess self would have been a shorter way of saying user.all in this case, but yeah. But I'm just wondering because what was the last login for this user?
Last login
was right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing, as I'm wondering if we try to do like self.last login and then try to check how many broadcasts were created since the last login, I don't know what we would get. We would get 0, I think, or would we get 20 because we created the broadcast after the user?
Actually, I want to. Since my last login is set to my time zone is actually, I guess, 2 hours before. Let me just correct that really quick in my system.
Yeah.
So we're working with something more accurate. Do you know how to do that?
No.
So maybe.
I'm not sure you would need to, but
I just want to change my time zone to.
Yeah.
But I think you're already on Berlin.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know exactly how it's working. I think to configure it like Rails is by default on UTC, and has a config file where you can specify the time zone that you wanted to have.
So
it's I don't think we need it. Do we?
No. I was just asking Robert, like, so in this case, self and user.all give the same output because we're in the test but so if I don't know, I'd have to look at the test again, but the broadcasts in the test were created after the user. So there would be 20 broadcasts created after this user's last login, correct?
So the broadcasts are created now in the test, and the user's last login was 2 months ago.
No, I mean, yeah, okay, but here it's saying last login was now.
Right. Why? That's a good question. Because you're in the first test case. If you say no exit,
yeah,
and then boom, There you go again. And now you say login.
Last login?
Yeah. Because you have 4 tests. And binding pry is executed within, like, during the course of all of them. So you will have 4 times this thing opened for you. So if you say last login, it will be 2 months ago. That's the test case number 2. There you go, May 19th. If you say exit again, this will be the next test case. If you say exit once more, then you will reach the last test case. And if you say once more exit, then this is it. There you go. So in order to just fix this very one test case, I would recommend to you to just run this test case on line number 26, because that's the one that's failing. Does it make sense to you?
I was a little bit confused why.
Yeah, I mean, go back to the test. Yeah, that's fine. So we are now running. Can we see it here? No, we cannot see it from the terminal. But anyhow, if you go back to the test, yeah, line 26. This is here, like many broadcasters large logins. This is the first test case is failing. It's calling reasons for notification. You put in binding pry in that method, right? So that's why you reach your binding pry. Before we were running the entire file.
Right.
This one was calling reasons for notification. This one was running reasons for notification. The 2 test cases below were also running reasons for notification. And so the first time you reached it was here, and then you had last login time current. And then that's the reason why you got confused. But now you're on the test case that you're trying to fix. And here you can compare. I think now last login is 2 months ago, as you can verify.
So now we should have 20 new broadcasts.
Yes, basically. Now there should be broadcasts.
Right.
Yeah, but how can you compare? Can you compare the like user.last login with that? I can't remember the name of the comparator. We can compare it with this comparator.
Yeah, the answer is yes, and that's exactly the solution in order to fix the test case. You want to compare, you want to query the database, get all broadcasts which were created since the last login, count them, and then decide if you want to notify the user. That's it.
Yeah.
No?
So I'm not used to using that very often, but I would be, yeah. And also, like from this test case, how would we have to iterate? We would have to iterate through these 20 broadcasts to look at, because we would have to look at their created at dates individually, right?
I don't get it.
We need to compare like the user last login. We just have one, right? But we need to compare that user last login to all 20 of these broadcast last login, and then whichever ones, in this case, all 20 of them will be created afterwards. But we need like however many are come back with like I don't think it returns a true or false Boolean when you use this operator. I think it returns like a 0 or a 1 or a -1. I'm not sure.
So you mean the spaceship operator up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joseph, for understanding, I think you also don't know this operator up there. This is the Ruby syntax, or it's a Ruby operator in order to compare things.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that one here. It's a called spaceship operator. So if you're in Ruby world, you can use that one in order to compare 2 items. But we can even run comparison on the database. So Joseph, maybe you also have heard about that. There are so-called SQL mappers or object relational mappers. Yeah, that's the spaceship operator. So this is different. This is Ruby land, but we can also be in the database land, and we can even create a query that will give us all the records that we created after a specific date, and that's all we need.
Mm.
And leave the comparison to the database.
Yeah, which is more like what we would be doing outside of the test case.
Yeah, and I also provided a link to you to the magic words is active record query interface, and there we'll see somewhere how to query the database. Get a group of
where
result sets of where definitely. So we can search for where.
But then we would still need to say where, like where the created at date is greater than or less than, I don't know, than the last login date.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So you can say like where clients.first name is equal to something. But
just
so created. Oh, I found something. I can share it.
What does Mike has to type into the query? Like into the.
I think I don't know. Where user.where, with a capital U, I guess, user.where, and then parentheses, and then you have in a string.
So Matt, where am I typing this in?
I guess this would need to be in the method, in that reasons for notification method.
Maybe let's let's give it a name. Create a variable and give it the name broadcast that were created since last login, all with underscore, not in the test case, of course, but in the actual implementation. Or a recently created broadcast. Yeah, you can. No, not a method.
No,
just a variable. The def keyword will always create a method.
So where one of the
in the method body. Method body goes from def to end. This is the method body. Last line will be the return value. In this case, anti-array. That's great. So I would even put it before, because it's just an intermediate result. So we want to have all the broadcasts that we created last login, and you could name a variable broadcast created since last login.
Okay.
Yeah, and then assign it with equals to, and then what? You have to create the right?
Yeah.
I sent something there to the chat, but with client, I guess would be user.
Yeah, that sounds right. So here we have another model. We don't have clients, but you can see the syntax here. So capital something, in our case, what?
It's going to be broadcast.
Yes, because we want to broadcast. Yeah. Then dot where, this will give a condition.
Yeah.
And then what do we need? Created at, maybe?
Yeah.
And then what? Created at has to be?
Greater than, yeah.
Greater than,
login, basically.
Yeah. And here is the tricky part. So there are different syntaxes for the query interface. Either you do it like this. You have a string, which will be put into the SQL query. There's an even easier one. You can just say, yeah. No. Okay, you have. I think you have to do it like that.
And then you have to escape it, don't you?
Yeah, you have to escape it, and you use a question mark.
Yeah.
So that's the syntax in for the query interface to pass in some kind of parameter.
Yeah.
And that's it. All you need for the string, and you just have to, you put in a comma, but the comma is now in the string, which that's not. That's the right place for the comma. So in here you give in then the parameter that should be put into this query, which would be
The last login.
the last login.
Yeah. Would it need to be current user or .last login or?
Yeah, but current user, since we are on the user model already, it will automatically call last login on self.
Oh, okay. Like
So
it did in the binding pry.
maybe swap line 868 with line 69 and run the test again so we can check what is broadcast since last login. So if you put it there, we already evaluated that line and we can access it. So if you run the test case again, so say exit and just run it again, you will reach binding pry, but have access to this local variable called broadcast created since last login. And you have autocomplete, so you don't have to remember all of that. You can also just type in VR and tab, and it will give you VR tab. This is how I do it. Oh no, you don't have autocomplete. That's sad. Well, I can just copy that. Fair enough. There you go.
How many are there? Did you say broadcasts created since last login .count?
Yeah,
20
matches up.
So what do you have to do now? So you know, okay, all the broadcasts since last login have the number of those is 20. So now it's up to you to decide what is the number when you decide now it's time to notify the user.
Wait, do we really need a magic number for that?
Yeah.
Like a threshold?
We need the magic number.
Can I ask a question about the magic number before we consent to the magic number? I guess like for me 20, I guess 20 sounds okay because whoever created this test in their infinite wisdom chose 20. But I was wondering if you could give us some information about like statistics, like how long does it typically take for 20 broadcasts to be created?
Yeah, so from my experience, it was like if you have a user who's working in public broadcasting, it can become very quick that this user is adding 10 or 20 new broadcasts to the database. However, usually people use for their one favorite broadcast and just add this one broadcast to the database. So it takes time until we reach 20. So I would put in probably a lower threshold. I would even start with 5 or 10, I would say. So 10 will take some time until 10 new broadcasts are added to the database. I would say we have, so if we had last year, I think we had every month 10 or maybe 5 new broadcasts. Let's just take 5 as a magic number, I would say. So 5 would be roughly 2 weeks or 1 month until we have 5 new broadcasts in the database, usually, on average.
Okay, I thought it would be less. I thought it was less than frequent. That's why I thought. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole point of these emails is to ping any users that basically haven't logged in for a month or whenever. There's something new going on, and I thought even one new broadcast might be the one that they actually liked.
Yeah, but do you want to be notified because there was one broadcast added to the database?
Yeah, I mean, also as well, like, wouldn't that be like if you might have to add some extra logic where it would only send one email because if someone went in there, like Robert's saying, and added like 6 or 7 different broadcasts, then it would send them 6 or 7 different emails on the same day.
Yeah, I mean.
You can define the number, so you can check. You can just decide how often you want to check. You can check every hour. You can check every day. You can check every week. You can check every month. But when you check, you will call this method for every user and see if there's a reason to notify him at all. So if you would say, I will only check every week, if it's worth to notify a user, you will not have users who are annoyed by these emails because it's not too often. It's not every week or so. Yeah, not even less. So if there's nothing going on, you will not notify this user, I would say.
Yeah.
How about that?
I thought it when I saw the ticket, I thought it's like every month they'll check if one of these reasons happens, then get sent out. So even if there's like 5 more broadcasts, they're only they should only receive one mail per month. Of all
Yeah,
That makes sense.
the mails to a certain frequency, like 1 week or 1 month.
Sure.
That's one thing you have to decide, one magic number, in a sense. But here you decide how many broadcasts have been created recently. So this is a reason for notifying the user. Two different things.
That's like a rake task that you would set up?
Yeah.
Cool.
You can run it every week or so.
I want to get better at creating rake tasks.
You can create the rake task for this feature.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, so do you think 5 is a good number?
Sure.
Huh? Okay. Then add the comparison to check if this count is then larger than, I would put it on a new line, I guess. So you already have this variable broadcast since last login. You can say, for example, now, how do you comparison?
So last login.
So this one is the number of.
Yeah, this should be 20.
This goes into here. This will now be 20.
Yeah.
No, this will be an array.
Right.
So you have to call count in it.
Right, array of 20 elements.
Yeah, and you have to do something if this is larger than 20. Larger than 5.
That's when you use the spaceship thing, right?
No, that was for comparison. We already done this with this one here.
Okay. Then
I think that's
if this is bigger than or equal to 5.
Yeah, but just notice that this here is an array. You didn't.
Count.
Yeah.
One. I was just gonna say that if you do it like this, then you'll need to have like another 2 lines where you have like the return value and an end. But I think in this case you might be able to just fit it all in one line. Like if you put before the if, the symbol, whatever symbol it is, like the reason. I can't remember the name of the reason.
What?
So on Ruby, in Ruby you can either have a block with your if statement. That would be now hit enter and say end, and then you have a block where you can add everything between if and end that should happen. This condition holds. But Matt was also suggesting you, since this is just this tiny little thing, like you want to add this simple, we simply created broadcast to your result. You can also put it on one line, but let's just do the block thing, I would say, for readability. I think
RoboCop's not going to be very happy with you, Robert.
What should it be according to our test case?
So if this is true, then we want to populate the array.
Exactly.
That reason.
Exactly.
Then push the reason, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. This.
Yeah. Just make it a symbol.
Yeah.
But that sorry.
Say it.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know if you're planning on leaving on line 72, but if you leave on line, you can't leave. Yeah, you wouldn't leave on line 72, right?
No.
But even this, like, you would still need to add a. Yeah. I'll just watch. Sorry, I don't know what you're gonna do next, so it can be that you're gonna do exactly what I'm thinking. So I don't.
Honestly, I don't know what happens if this works.
No, I mean this.
At least you have to put it into the if statement, right? So this is the thing.
Yeah.
But then it won't return an empty array, so then it'll break the first test, which is why I was saying. Then you would have to add an empty array to line 72, but. Yeah, you would need to have in the you would need to say if broadcast created blah 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 is greater than or equal to, and then you would say you'd have to actually tell it to return the, or would you?
Yeah.
Wait, for the empty array, I was still trying to wrap my head. This is just a test that it should be nothing in there if you just logged in and nothing happened, right? That's the initial test. So, okay.
Yeah, but it's going on what the return value is, right? So if you move that to line, I mean, could you move that to line 70?
This line 72.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you run the test again, I believe that that first test will fail because you're not returning. It's going to go if the broadcast is greater than or equal to 5.
Okay. So now you're just executing this one test case because you're not executing line number 26.
Oh, now we want to do that.
Yeah.
Test case number 1, you can say exit, I would say. By the way, yeah, now it would be handy if you would have deleted 71, but we're now interested in the the test case is actually succeeding.
Oh, really? Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
it's because it's not saved in Atom. Because look, it's returning an empty array.
Yeah, maybe you should also now take the chance and delete that one. Yeah.
Okay, I'll run the test.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the debugger. Binding price using exit as the. All right. So.
Okay. Again.
Sorry guys, I'm a bit quiet. Don't know any Ruby, so apologies, but maybe soon.
No,
I'm
that's
a bit
okay.
quiet because
And we have another new guest. Oh, Faith. Hey, Faith, how are you? Nice. You're back.
I was just saying I'm a bit quiet because I don't know any Ruby, and all of this looks magic to me. But on the next, maybe on the weekend, where I have more free time, I'll learn Ruby and maybe I'll start contributing.
Yeah, that's what we were doing right now is just the syntax of Ruby for if statements.
Yeah.
And how to return things. So in Ruby, unlike in JavaScript, we have an implicit return value. So the last line of a method is always the return value. If you have a return value, a method will return nil by default. So null, N-U-L-L in JavaScript has the name nil in Ruby, N-I-L. Same.
Okay.
And there's no undefined in Ruby. So undefined and null is both nil, right?
Okay.
So I guess in JavaScript you would have undefined in that case, but here we have nil, same. And anything that's on the last line will be the return value unless you have an explicit return statement. So you can put anywhere in your method return, and then it will exit the method and return whatever you're going to return, like you do in JavaScript.
Oh.
And now we're getting into that, so we try to fix both test cases, and I'm expecting to have, exactly.
Yeah,
Test case number 1 is failing again. Test case number 2 is succeeding. You can here see that.
Yeah.
Here are 4 test cases. The first one is failing. Second one is succeeding. 3 and 4 are failing. But we want to make a first 2 pass, right?
So in getting the second one to pass, we broke the first one.
Exactly, because it's not empty anymore.
Yeah.
How can
well, no, because it's returning nil. It's not that it's empty. If you look at it, it's expected nil to respond to empty. It's because it's not returning. It's going in there and it's looking if the blah 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 and it's saying no, it's not. So then it carries on, and then there's nothing else in the method, so it's returning nil.
Exactly. So let's go into the method again.
And just real quick, Joseph. So yeah, don't worry about if you're talking. I think Robert and I sometimes worry that we're talking too much. But if you have any questions, like, please don't hesitate to ask. But if not, then you just want to follow along. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And also on the weekends, we have a weekend collaboration that's going through kind of the basics of Ruby from the ground up. So feel free to join us on that chat.
Nice. I would love that.
Cool. I think Faith is planning on joining us, coming back as well.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. So let's go to reasons for not. Yeah, that was the method in the last file. That was just fine. So we have to make sure that if we don't reach line number 70, which is the case for test case number 1, because this first line doesn't hold, right? There are no broadcasts, so it will not be larger than 5.
Yeah.
We have to return an empty array.
Yeah. If then else empty array.
You can even omit the else, because you will reach.
Or yeah, if it doesn't happen, then nothing really happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, but we have to return a default return value. So last line is always the return value.
Yeah.
So we have to put something on the last line. Joseph, do you know the answer? What we have to put on the last line?
You want to return an empty. You can. So we can't use nil.
We cannot use.
Actually, you don't need to put anything. Because.
Say it again.
Do you need to work? Okay, let me move somewhere quieter. Let me move. There's a lot of noise here. Let me move.
You were.
Yeah.
Then the noise. Yeah, I see. So you just added an empty array.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just try it out. Check out the test case if it's succeeding now.
So it's exactly like what you had before, right? Just.
Yeah.
Although, Robert, I had a question.
We're getting. I know what you wanted to ask.
Okay.
You will see it now. How many test cases do you think are now succeeding?
Actually, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking something different, but. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Can you tell me? So, okay, test number 1.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I had a doubt about that. So I guess that's what Robert was alluding to earlier, is because in Ruby the last line is returned by default. So if you want to return something before the last line, then you need to be explicit that you want to return that. So what happens in the flow is it enters into the. If you could go back to the method maybe, so you can see it. It'll start at the top of the method. It'll create the local variable. Then it'll check if that local variable's count is greater than or equal to 5. If it is, then it will push the recently created broadcast to an empty array, and then it'll drop into line 72, and it will return line 72. So you're gonna, no matter what, you're gonna return this empty array. So if you wanted to explicitly return what's on line 70 and to ignore line 72, you actually need to say return and then the array, which will leave the method.
But say the last line.
If you add the keyword return to line 70. No, not line 70. Yeah.
70 return.
Yeah. Then it won't go to line 72. If those conditions are true, then it'll enter there and it will return whatever in there and just pretend that there's nothing else in the method.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, not only say yes, not, but also run the test case, see what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to ask is if there was any specific reason why you would want to have an push to an empty array instead of just adding the symbol inside of the array, which is less characters.
Yeah, it's the equivalent, right? So
yeah, in this case, yeah.
Finally, we are now have test case 1 and 2 fixed, right? You can see it.
Yep.
So, and Matt was now suggesting a refactoring. If you look at the code, you can see that on line number 70, you're just returning the equivalent of an array where you have recently created broadcasts, just like that. So, having empty array, pushing one item in there is equivalent to initializing an array with this item in there. Right? Just as we did 20 minutes ago, where we cheated and just initialized an array with all 3 reasons by default. So this is the equivalent. You can verify that by doing that.
I have another. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Faith.
I have a question. So, what's the difference between, or is there an advantage of using push over that sign of pasted in the chat?
There are different. So, Joseph, in Ruby there are so many ways to do the same thing. So, Faith added another syntax for adding one item to an array. This is the operator to push one item from the right side to the left. So, if you have an array on the left, this operator there will add item to an array. It's the same as dot push. But yeah, initialize an array means having the square bracket syntax and a comma separated list of items. So where are the square brackets here? On line 70. These are the square brackets. So since the square brackets are empty, you're initializing an empty array and then call a method. Initializing an array with items means putting this item in the square brackets. This is your item, the symbol here, recently creatable class.
Right. You could go back to the beginning.
Yeah, so initializing an array is, the syntax for initializing an array is just having the square brackets and putting all the items you want, comma separated, between the square brackets.
Okay.
What do you have here between the square brackets?
So we're calling a new empty array.
Exactly. There's nothing between the square brackets. That's why we have we initialize an empty array. And Matt pointed out that.
Oh, we don't need. Sorry.
Yeah.
We don't need all of that. We could just put it in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although while pointing that out, I also I wonder as well if we're not going to, if it's not a good idea to create a local variable which is an empty array and then push to that empty array dependent on the condition.
Yeah, that you're reading my mind. But let's go one step at a time.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you might say that.
Does it make sense to you, Mike? Is it easy for you to follow?
Yeah, it's just my whole thing is I can't really think on the fly.
Yeah. You have to do one step at a time and just always repeat. And the first thing that you can get accustomed to is never trust Matt. Just never trust. Always trust your computer. Like, don't just believe what we are saying. Always try it out, and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat.
Not just that, but just knowing exactly what are we trying to do.
I see. Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure out what are we actually testing for, and what's the whole scenario. Well, we're basically already implementing it. So my brain can't really keep up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also have troubles to explain it because English is not my native language. Right here. So what we did in the last couple of hours was So in the first hour, I was basically telling you what to do because it was the test setup, and it's a little bit complicated because I have a very specific test setup in my mind, and I kind of explicitly told you what to do. The next thing is, you have the test setup, and this test setup is like specifying what you have to do in order to make. You should do some kind of implementation which will make all test cases pass. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And then as soon as all test cases pass, right now we have 2 out of 4 test cases passed. We're almost there, but there's still stuff to do. But I mean, we have 2 test cases passed. It's almost following the spec. Like, think of your test cases as your specification, right? Yeah, so when you have the specification, it's very much one way of what to do. And the last hour, we were trying to get both the first test cases fixed, like the default one and the first reason that we can get from the data, including all the broadcasts, checking if, like, getting all the broadcasts that were created since last login, counting them, and then deciding if we want to notify the user. Notifying the user means adding this reason to the list. Like, think of you have a sheet of paper and you just check your to-do list.
Yeah.
Like, for every user, you as a human being, you go through the list of possible reasons and you check every reasons. Is the number of broadcasts since his last login larger than 5? Yes or no? If yes, then add this list to the array. And now, since we have both test cases fixed, Matt is already suggesting a refactoring. Refactoring means we're not changing anything of the actual behavior. Yeah. We're just changing the implementation so some things get easier or easier to maintain. And Matt was suggesting that we have like a result variable that we return eventually. This result is our list of reasons, which is initially empty. And for every check that fulfills yes, we add this reason to the list. Here, we have on line 70, we always return one list with only one reason. On line 72, we return the empty list. But what happens if we want to fix test case number 3, right? We would have, how do we add a list with 2 reasons?
Accumulated this.
Yes, accumulate. That's the word in English. Exactly. That's the word that I don't know.
Yeah.
So kind of how can you accumulate it? And this is this refactoring that Matt was suggesting to us.
Yeah.
Having one list, and we populate for every reason that we check. If the test case, if this condition holds, we add this item to the list, so we can accumulate.
Actually, actually, that's a step that I wasn't actually thinking about, because I was thinking that we were only gonna be returning an array with. Yeah, I guess that doesn't make sense though. Then why would we be using arrays? But I was thinking that it would just be returning one reason, but there potentially could be multiple reasons why we're contacting the person.
Absolutely, you want to tell the user all of them, maybe, right?
Yeah. Cool. I didn't think about that, but that's another benefit to pushing to it.
I'm thinking we could instead of where do we go?
This is a test case. This is
the words that test case we're working on. Oh, okay.
This is the method.
Okay. This is okay. So that's the case.
Sometimes also it helps that you just mimic the execution of the lines for every test case. Could we make a game now? Could you move your cursor with your arrow keys? How do you think what the computer is doing on test case number 1 and test case number 2? Like, could you show me with your cursor where does it start and where does it end when it evaluates this method for test case number 1 and test case number 2? Do you get what I mean?
Is this for me or
yeah, for everyone actually. So this is what I'm doing in my mind sometimes. So I sometimes use my cursor here and just imagine that I'm executing it as a human being, and I start here, and I have the test case scenario in my mind. So given we have this test case here, this default test case, we have just one user, there's no broadcast in the database. What should happen? Okay, we're starting off here. What's going on now? What's the first thing that we're going to check?
I was gonna say let's create a instance variable after that. But am I skipping ahead, or are you trying to?
Yes, you're doing the right thing. So you would say we're creating a variable, and then what?
No, I'm saying to capture all the accumulated things, we could use an instance variable. But you're
oh yeah, that's this the suggestion by Matt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this resolve instance variable. Yeah, that's already the refactoring.
But you're trying to do something good. You're trying to do an academic exercise right now, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of doing an academic exercise, which helps me a lot of times because I'm trying to imagine in my mind what's the computer doing, and sometimes I'm doing it for my own and using the cursor and moving the cursor at the places where I think the computer will do, and where the control flow is going. Yeah, I think control flow, that's the correct term for that. So can you maybe show me the control flow, for example, for test case number 1?
That's number 1.
Yeah, that's number 1.
By default, so user update forms.
So that's just a preparation. So we know, okay, the user has a last login of, which is now. And now you run reasons for notification.
Oh, this is here.
Yeah, this is the one. So is expected will execute subject, right? So you will have user.reasons for notification. This method will be called. So where do we end?
So that will point us
to
here.
Yes, this will point us to there.
This would populate from here. Obviously, if it's from now, that's login right now. So this should be 0. Nothing should populate.
For test case number 1, you're almost there. So you're almost right. Can you go back to the method? It's easier for me to explain. So yes, so line number 68 is always executed, no matter what, right? But this will not be 0 because this is an array. Yeah? Broadcast where will give you a list, so not a number. It will give you an empty list, right? So the 0 comes on number 69.
Right.
Yeah. So what is so empty list.count? What will give you that?
Yes, that'll be 0.
That will be 0 because it's empty.
Yeah.
And then?
Yeah. So this wouldn't execute.
Yeah, just one step at a time. So what is the result value of 0 equals or greater than 5? What's that?
Will be false.
That will be false. So this one here evaluates to false. It's actually what's going on in my mind when I do that. So if false means where do we go next?
Then this will end.
Yeah, we skip the entire if block.
Yeah.
Because it's if false. And then we will end where?
Next line 72.
There's empty array. So and then
yeah, that's what will be returned.
Exactly. Why is it what we return?
Why does it return that?
Yeah.
Because every method returns the last line.
By default, yes, exactly, without explicit return.
Right.
And this will be returned. And now go back to the user spec.
Mm-hmm.
So
it would work if you explicitly return it as well. It's just not necessary in Ruby.
Yeah, you could explicitly return it at the line, but not necessarily because we are in Ruby. Mm-hmm. In JavaScript, you would have to explicitly return it. Okay. So now we're back in line number 18, sorry.
Okay.
So what happens now?
We expected it to be empty, which would not be the case, right? Because we have an array, even though it's an empty array.
But we have an empty array.
Okay. Okay.
You just returned it. array.
Okay. If it was nil, then it would be false.
Yes, it's not nil. It's an empty array.
Okay.
That's why we have
Right.
the end.
Okay.
Mike. Also, as well, if you wanted to go to the terminal, you can check your assumptions on that kind of stuff by just saying like pry, and then it'll drop you into a pry session. Well, I guess if you have it globally installed, it'll drop you into a pry session, and you can just add an empty array and say dot empty with a question mark, and then you can check whether that will actually return what you think it's going to return. You know?
Yeah, that's good. Good point.
So,
I do the IRB.
Yeah, this is expected. We'll just do that. So it will call user reasons for notification. After this whole procedure, this will evaluate to empty array for test case number 1, of course, only for test case number 1. And then we will ask this whatever which was returned, if this is empty. And if so, it's expected to be empty, then this test will pass. If it was anything else than an empty array or empty list or whatever, then this test will fail. Right? Mm-hmm. So now go to test number 2 and do the same thing, please.
So before do
what is the test setup?
context, many new broadcasts.
Yeah, that's the description, more or less. So this description is a hint for other developers of your team, like for Joseph, for Faith, for Matt. So that we have a setup where we have many new broadcasts in last login. But what does it actually mean?
Let's go back one step. So these lines, these should run for all. That's a setup.
Yes, absolutely.
These,
so
right?
These are initialized for every test case.
Yeah.
But they only get called when you actually call it the first time. So like on line 7 doesn't actually get called until line 12.
Yeah, it's lazy initialized. That's the site.
Yeah.
No, okay, so performance improvement for your test cases, but it doesn't really matter right here. Like it's faster, but it's still the same thing.
I have a question.
Yes.
How can you do like 2.month?
How can you do what?
Like, is a number an object in Ruby or something? I see that you are doing 2.months.ago.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, since you're accustomed to JavaScript, Ruby is amazing. Like, it's awesome. Like, so beautiful. It's beautiful that you can even use literal numbers as objects. So 2, the number 2, this character 2, is an integer and an object, and you can call methods on this thing, right? So you can do something like 2.month. That's a method. That's a method call. As I told you, you don't have to use parentheses. So 2.month really a method call. And you can chain methods here. You can say 2.month.ago. That means you first say 2 month, that will return something. And on this something, you can call ago. And this will give you a date, which is the date 2 months ago, right? So this is just a beautiful way of getting a date that was 2 months ago.
Oh, so the months and the .ago are built into Ruby.
Not Ruby, Rails. So Rails is adding helper methods on integers that give you this nice way of syntax.
I'm sharing my screen. If you want to look at my screen in Pry, I called the 2.methods.count, and we can see that there's 153 methods that the integer 2 or any integer responds to.
Yeah. So methods will give you the names of all methods on an object. So no, just say methods for the record. Oh yeah, there you go. And this is the list of all. It's a little bit. I have the toolbar hiding some of the names, but yeah, it will give you a list of names. These are all the methods that are available on an integer.
You can even ask, like, for example, there's a method called even. You can ask an integer if it's even or not, instead of doing like 2 and then the remainder.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I and the remainder 2 is equal to 0. You don't need to do that. You can just say, is it even?
Wow.
You can even call the dot next on it, you know? Like, so 2 dot next will give you 3.
What?
Yeah, it's amazing. And to answer your another part of your question, everything in Ruby is an object.
Okay.
Everything.
Almost.
Do we have high order functions in
Yeah.
Ruby?
Yeah, kind of
Are they
that.
first class?
Yeah.
Because if they are, like, if you want to return a method, let's say 2.months.ago, then if it's going to invoke it, then how do you stop it from invoking that, from executing the function? If you want to return a function inside a function.
Yeah, we can do that. So we have special objects in Ruby. They're called rocks and lambdas, and you can pass them into functions and create higher level functions.
Oh, okay. So you have to add something.
Yes.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Continue then.
Higher level functions are functions that return other functions.
Yeah.
I would like to, at some other point, I would like you to maybe explain to us what you meant by almost everything is an object in Ruby.
Yeah, so if cases are not objects. In fact, you can't do something like if blah 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 and then dot. That makes error.
Can't you? I thought you could do that.
No. Yeah, you have to put it into a proc, make it a like this special object holding this function, then it works. But if it's almost true that like almost everything in Ruby is an object. But if cases is a good example for something, a syntax piece of syntax that's not an object.
Yeah, but it sounds cooler to say everything is an object in Ruby.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, on the weekend there's a new Rails Girls meetup, Rails Girls event here in Berlin, which I will attend as a coach, and they tell you sometimes you can also lie to your attendance and just say, okay, everything in Ruby is an object, which is not really true, but it helps.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to the topic. So I would say, since I'm getting tired, let's do this one refactoring now, and maybe apply the syntax that Faith has given us, and do what Matt has suggested, to like have one local variable that you can add one reason and accumulate it, and then return the final list, and that's it. And it should still make all the first 2 test cases pass. Because it's getting a little bit crowded here. We are reaching, I think it's, we're reaching dinner time. So I would actually, quit this hangout in like 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. I think you're also tired, right? I know.
Okay, but yeah, I need to.
So let's do this very last thing, having this local variable that you just appending to, and then return that one. How can we do that?
So are we going to use the instance variable?
Yes, that's what Matt was suggesting.
That we're going to define somewhere else? Or no, okay, we can define it here, and it will still be the scope. It'll still be visible everywhere else, right? So we can return reasons
At? I see.
like that, something like that.
Yeah, so instance variables are visible for other methods, but right here we just need it in this method. No, so we don't even need the at. We can just.
But I was just thinking, because for other reasons, like recently created broadcast or whatever, that needs to populate to this.
Yeah, that's true. But we can put everything inside this method.
Yeah, it's just if you can use it outside of if blocks, but it's just if you use outside of the method, then you would need to use an instance variable, or if you're using on a different in a view, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So if you would reason somewhere in another method like here, then you could make an instance variable. But since we only need this return value inside the method, I mean, it's the return value of this method. You will never use it anywhere else because it's the return value of the method, which is not accessible from anywhere else. We can also use a local variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's create a local variable.
Sounds good.
Reason. What should we name it?
I don't know. I sometimes use result, but you can call it however you like. Maybe reasons? Yeah, reasons. Why not? Now you're returning the assignment of reasons. And now?
You only want to return the variable itself, right?
Yeah, now you're returning a variable which is not initialized.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do that. Exactly. So if you reach line number 17, you will correctly create your array with a pre-populated item here and then return it. This would work. But yeah, let's try it. Let's run the test case first.
Is it after 4 o'clock, Robert?
It's 6 o'clock almost here. 20 to 6. Yeah.
It's 6:40 in Kenya.
So what do you expect? How many tests now? Okay, so that was spoiled. Okay, so first test case are still succeeding. That's good. But we are not there. Like the idea is to at the very end return the reasons here, and just in that if statement, just add that item to the reasons. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it makes sense. What did you suggest?
I have a suggestion.
Steps are here. Initialize the array. Maybe initialize an empty array because that's the default. Then check every condition. For every condition that holds, add a reason to it. And at the very end, after you check all conditions, return the reason array. Empty array. That's step number 1. Exactly. That's how you initialize a local variable with an empty array. Second is to push or to add items to that list. And last step is to return the reasons array.
So if this is one, that's the first one. So like check.
Yeah.
Then we want another one. Do we want to do it before this or after this?
Which one?
For the next, we're going on to the next reason, right?
Well, we'll do that probably tomorrow.
Okay.
So we'll just do the refactoring. So we'll make sure at the end of the day, test case 1 or 2 are passing. What you do now is just the refactoring.
So yeah, you need to on line 71, instead of assigning the variable to a different array, you just want to append that empty array with the reason.
Yeah.
Did you? I don't know if you saw in the chat what Faith sent there, how to append a different way of appending or pushing.
Yeah.
So this is the syntax for pushing right side into the reasons array. Yeah. So and then
returns that. What are we missing there?
I mean, we have step 1 and we have step 2, and now we return this array. We want to always return this array, no matter what. We don't want to return this inside the condition, we will want to return it at the very end. Because in the condition, we're just appending things to the reasons array. But at the very end, for all test cases, we want to return the reasons array.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not that you're like the way you had it would have passed the test, I think, but it's just extra code that you don't need.
Mm-hmm. Like, do you think that we still need line number 72? Can you?
Then yeah, we don't need it then.
Why?
Because if it's false, yeah, it wouldn't even need to do anything.
Yeah, it will reach line number 72 only if that condition is true. And since we are having explicit return value there, it will end the whole method. It will like exit there.
Yeah.
So if you just delete that line, it will not exit, but will go on to the next line and exit here. So just the same thing.
Yeah.
And also the benefit of doing it like this as well is that you notice on line 71 you don't actually need to explicitly return anything because you're not actually the array won't be like the array is just being appended to. So when if it enters that if block, then it'll be appended to and it'll return on line 73. But if it doesn't enter that if block, then it'll stay an empty array and will return on line 73. So the return will be different based on that condition.
Yeah, right. And because we also eventually we need to have more conditions to cycle through anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So thinking ahead, where would those conditions go? Like where would you put them?
Yeah, here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you do it. So you just check one condition after another, and at the very end you just return reasons, and there you go.
Yeah.
So let's check if still test case number 1 and 2 are succeeding. Did you save the file?
Yeah.
And then I would say this is it for today.
Oh. Yeah, to run to another event.
Yeah, looks good. Congratulations. I would hit that. Push it. Nice.
We didn't change anything here, right?
No.
Okay.
Test case number 1 and 2 fixed. Fair enough. And push. And by the way, the branch we are working on is on Mike's fork, so it's not on the original repository here. It's
it could be my.
I can give you a link. But was this helpful for everyone, like Faith and Joseph? Could you follow what we were doing?
Yep. For me, it made me like Ruby more, like seeing the syntax and everything it can do.
Yeah. I think you have to check out the syntax of Ruby because it's so new, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh.
It was helpful for me.
We're on just Faith and Joseph and also Mike if you want to join us. We're just gonna start week 1 on the Ruby course. So we've gone through the Code Academy. Actually, we went through with Faith and we went through with Mike. So we're not going to go through that again, but I can give you the link to that. And if you want to join us on week 1, we'll be doing that on this weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, I would love to.
So
One of the edX posts.
Here, I just pushed the branch to the Slack. I will also push it to Hangout chat. So this is the branch that Mike was just pushing to, and it's also linked to this pull request. So you can check out that. If you want to, maybe you can also pair individually.
Yep.
Either with or do you have time tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can pair together. I will not have time tomorrow in the afternoon because I will be at this Railskills event. Railskills starts in the afternoon or evening and will be for the whole Saturday. So I will also be off on Saturday and Sunday because I'm visiting my girlfriend on Sunday. But yeah, for example, if you want to work on this branch on the weekend, you can do so. This is the repository. It's Mike's fork, branch number 390. Okay.
Yeah. Also quickly before we go, I mentioned in the chat, Robert, but I have to check with Miriam if we're gonna try pairing on that frequently asked questions page and scroll to target. But I invited Faith and Joseph to join if we do pair on that. So, and Mike as well if you wanna. But yeah, it's more working through a bug, so maybe it's not so exciting. But maybe you can help work through the bug.
Yeah.
If you say it with an excited voice, then it's less painful.
So last coffee for me.
Yeah, I thought it was beer time, Robert.
No, I'm drinking coffee all the time.
Okay.
There's a message for you, Robert. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah.
There's a message for you. On the chat.
The chat?
Robert, yeah, there's a message for you.
Yeah, I'll feed it by Joe.
Yeah.
The goodbye.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Really cool.
All right. Shall I hit the stop broadcast button? This will stop the recording.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. So thank you everybody for being with us. And
Thanks, guys.
bye-bye.
Bye.
See you guys soon.